Okay, hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to my session today called Data, the Good, the Bad, the Ugly. So, why should we care about data? Well, this is a question that I hope to actually answer in today's presentation. So, hopefully, you walk away actually having a bit of an answer to this question, because we're going to deep dive into the world of data in several different scenarios. So, really excited to share with you today. A lot of the things I will be talking about are based on a book called Everybody Lies: What the Internet Tells Us About Who We Really Are. And it's a book that I read last year, and I thought it was really, really insightful. So I'm really excited to share with you today what I've learned that you might not be aware about. So before I go any further, I might as well introduce myself. So my name is Samantha Imafidon. Some people might know me as a maths child genius. When I was young, about 6 years old, I passed my GCSE in maths and statistics, and it was kind of picked up by BBC, Sky, and all that kind of media press outlets. But today, I see myself as a tech creative, which basically just means that I love technology, but I'm also really creative. I do some things on the side, digital illustrations and stuff like that. And I'm a founder. I founded Becoming Samantha, which is my platform I use to share tech and life learnings, mainly on Instagram, but I do have my website, ppelganger.com, which will be released really soon. And outside of that, I'm working full-time at Microsoft. I work as a customer success account manager by day. So yeah, that's a bit about me. Just left my contact details at the bottom there, so you can catch me on Twitter, catch me on Instagram, or wait for my site to come out. So really happy to be here today. So what is data? Now, I think personally, the tech industry sometimes likes to complicate really small, simple, I guess ideas or concepts. So the way I think about data is simply information. And this information can come in many different forms. And you might have heard of a term called big data, which is simply lots of data, right? It's this evolution that we've gone towards where there's now masses and masses of data in large data sets that are, complex, and they're coming from new sources of data. And this is something I hope to explore a bit more in today's presentation. But as the digital age has kind of progressed, data is really coming in left, right, and center, from the way we search on the internet, to conversations we have with others, to leaving reviews online. All of these make up data and big data. This evolution and kind of move towards the cloud means that now more than ever there is data all around us, and everywhere we go, we move, there's like a trail of data following us. So that's a bit of a breakdown, but I thought it'd also be quite important to cover what is not data. So I'm just going to see if the slide's progressing. I don't think it is. Let me just there we go. Right, so what is not data? So as someone who classifies herself as a computer scientist, I studied computer science at a university. I was under the misconception for a really long time that data was actually just numbers on a page, right? And I think this is something that a lot of people are still imagining data as, but it's far more than numbers on a page. So it's not just numbers on a page. It's not just the results of surveys, right? It's words, it's images, clicks, links, heartbeats, searches, right? It's reviews, like I said before, that we leave online. As the world increasingly progresses and more and more data is full of information, it's a really exciting time. The insights that we can generate from data, hence the term big data, it's really, really exciting. So I think what I just wanted to make clear is that it's not just numbers on a page. There is a lot more that data actually is. It's a very, very powerful tool, especially when you extract insights from it. So we're going to dig a bit more into that now. But yeah, what I would just again reiterate is that we leave traces of data, throughout our everyday life now, because of social media and the cloud and how everything's progressing. So this is the start really of something even more insightful and exciting that we're going to see in the future happen. We're really just at the cornerstone of what data is able to do today. So anyway, enough of me rambling. I want to start giving you real life examples of where data is being used and proof that data is not just numbers on a page. So first of all, I wanted to dig into one type of data or data in a particular form, right? And this is data as an image, or images that are data, right? So like I said, data is not just numbers on a page. It can come in many different forms, and images is one of those forms. Okay, so what many people aren't aware of is that some people in this world are actually using images as a way to indicate how an economy is performing in developing countries. So I'm about to share more about Premise. And Premise was a company, or is a company, it still exists, founded in 2012, which employs a group of people on the ground in developing countries. They arm them with smartphones, and their task is to go around and take photos of activity relating to economic import. And they get them to do this several times, repeatedly, and then those images are actually sent back to the Premise team, another Premise team, who take time to really analyze those photographs, and extract insights from it, and this is a form of data, right? So I guess to dig a bit deeper into, some of the shots that people get. As you can see on the screen, you've got someone there taking a picture of vegetables in an open market. So this is an example of something that they would be sending back. But it's not just images like this. There are images that they can send back of lines outside fuel or gas stations, or fruit in fruit bins in supermarkets. These are all indications that the team can actually use to put a label on what type of economic activity is going on in a country. And I guess if I just rewind, part of the reason this even is helpful to the organization is because there are some developing countries that don't necessarily have as much public data as developed countries, so they have to find another way to try and get information or insight as to what's going on in that country. So in the instance of taking photos in of a line of cars at a fuel or gas station, that's actually a sign of that there's trouble, like economic trouble. And the same thing in terms of the ripeness of apples in the supermarket, and they can all use this to collate their data and insight. So they've got these people on the ground. Premise have people on the ground that they take photos and they send them back to the company's kind of analysts, right, who go through the data and really translate it into code, right? And based on this, they're able to make a set of predictions and estimations of economic output and inflation as well. So this is all really interesting because this is something I never was aware of, that people were taking photos and sending it to companies, and they actually get paid to take photos as well. So it's not like a free task. So to give you an insight into, I guess, part of what Premise has been able to do, if you look back at China, I saw that they've helped them discover food inflation there in 2011 and food deflation in 2012. And they were able to do that before official data came in because, again, they had men and women on the ground who were sending them back information, basically data, in the form of photos. So you might be thinking, okay, so you've got people taking photographs, they're sending it back to this company, they're generating insights, but who actually cares about this, right? Well, Premise actually sells this information to banks and hedge funds, and actually also collaborates with the World Bank, right? So these are huge institutions who are paying money for this insight, for this information, right? So data is gold to a lot of people. As they say, knowledge is power. So any extra bit of data or insight that someone can get to help them provide a better service potentially to customers, help them save lives, help them make more money in some cases. Many people don't bat an eyelid at that. So I hope you can start to see and envision that data is far more than numbers on a page, like I've been saying since the beginning. It offers a lot more insights, and people are willing to pay money for it. So, just a couple more things about Premise before I move on to the next case study, should I say. So, Premise, like I said, is already making money. But if we look back at 2012 when they started to 2015, in the first 3 years, we saw that they actually had investment of $50 million from investors, who clearly saw that what they were doing, there was worth here. There was a lot of worth here. And recently it was actually reported that Premise had raised £85 million towards really growing their machine learning and human intelligence platform. So you can really see this is not something that is, a one-hit wonder. This is, growing. This is something that's growing. It's a need that people see on a consistent basis. So this is really interesting to see how images are being used as data, how people are making money off of it. And yeah, I'll just take a note of that. Okay, right, slide is not progressing, but let's there we go. Okay, right, so the next thing I wanted to just quickly call out before moving on to another case study is the doppelganger search. And this is a phenomenon, this is a method used that really zooms in on data. It zooms in on a small subset of people that are most similar to another person. And with this type of search, the more data that you have, the better you have insights, right? So it's just a way of getting really deeper in insights, and it's a way to really personalize data as well. And this will make more sense as I progress on. But if we think about the doppelganger search and kind of how are people using it today, where is it being used? It's actually being used by some of the biggest and most well-known companies today in the world, right, to improve their offerings, to improve their user experience. And if you know of Amazon, I'm sure we all know of Amazon. It was actually a guy called Greg who came up with this kind of idea of trying to find a way to better predict readers' book preferences, right? So if we go back to the core of what the doppelganger search is, it's using information from a specific type of user, right, and kind of using that to then influence your decisions on an individual, right? So Greg thought about this idea and said, okay, if I'm able to get a subset of people in a particular demographic, I can see what they're doing, what they're using, what they've read, what they've enjoyed. I can then suggest this to someone else that fits that same demographic, right? So that was the kind of rationale behind it. So Amazon, continues to use that today, but then you can also see companies like Netflix that use that to, again, recommend and suggest movies and shows and things like that. Okay, so that's an important thing to note when we look at healthcare. So vast areas of life could actually be improved through personalization, and healthcare is one of those areas. And the doppelganger searches allow that personalization. And if we look at some of the research that's been done into this, there's someone called Isaac Cohane, who's a computer scientist and medical researcher, and he's really passionate and trying to bring personalization to healthcare. And this is a really interesting one. Obviously this past year for everyone has been a really challenging one. And we're in the middle of a pandemic, and particularly in the UK, we know that actually the people most affected by the virus are people from BAME backgrounds, right? And why is that? There's a number of different reasons. Is personalized medicine something that could have really helped in this pandemic? Being able to look at the what was happening in the BAME community, and so being able to apply that to any other person of that same background, to ensure that they got the help that they needed. Question mark. So going back to Isaac Cohen. So Isaac Cohen is a computer scientist and a medical researcher passionate about kind of personalized medicine, and his whole thoughts are wanting to organize and collect health information so that instead of using a one-size-fits-all model, doctors can actually find patients just like you, and apply more personalized and focused diagnoses of treatments, right? So when we look at a diagnosis in the medical and health industry, what exactly is it, right? It's a statement where they've collected properties, they've collected kind of thoughts and what they've observed from previous situations, and they're applying that to you as a person, right? So in a way, it's a bit of an archaic form of doppelganger search, right? Because they are comparing, I guess, what they've previously known or seen in a particular area, and then they're using that to then try to help you. But the only challenge with this is that doctors are using data sets, information from a really small selection, right? And sometimes it can be supplemented with information that they might have found through research of other doctors. But ultimately, if you're really trying to help somebody and get the best insights, then you want to be able to give the best insight as possible, and you can't really do that unless you've got enough data, right, to see that. So it's a diagnosis is based on a doctor's experience, and if we look at how the doppelganger search can really help in this area, it can really take data from a large set of people who have similar symptoms, similar age, similar background, and then be able to compare that to someone that fits that, give them, like I said, or like Isaac said, not a one size fits all, but rather something that's more personalised. And we're talking about health here. This is a life and death type of situation. So with the health sector, you could say, okay, just bring in the doppelganger search. Like, let's start personalising medicine. The main challenge here is actually data collection, right? So if we look at most medical type institutions today, a lot of reports are still generated on paper, buried in files, and even with documentation that has been digitalized, it's not in compatible formats, right? So that's like a hurdle that's going to have to be looked into before any of this can kind of be progressed. But Isaac Cohen does dig deeper into the power of what could be personalized medicine if we're able to do this in our lifetime, right? And he says that just creating a complete data set of children's height and weight charts and any diseases that they might have would actually revolutionize pediatrics. He said each child's growth path could be compared to every other child's growth path, and then you could create a system that would find children who are on a similar trajectory, which would basically automatically flag when something was going wrong. Okay, so when we look at medicine, obviously the best thing is prevention, before things get too far. So being able to have that automatic flag to say this doesn't look right. We've looked at 50,000 pieces of information. This person is similar. Red button, stop there, kind of thing. This could really save someone's life. And he believes that detecting a child's height leveling off prematurely, that could be an early sign of like a brain tumor, right? And that's really, really crazy. So early diagnosis could save lives, but yeah, medicine still has a long way to go in terms of digitalizing and collecting data. But in terms of what's happening today in the area, in the sector, with data and what is possible, there's somebody called James Hayward, who's an entrepreneur, who has created a site called patientslikeme.com, where individuals can actually report their own information, so their conditions, treatments, side effects, and this can actually be seen by others in the community, and they can kind of learn from that, right? And so far, James has been able to chart varying causes of diseases and compare that to what is commonly understood of them. And his goal is to really recruit as many people as possible, collect as much as he can on varying conditions to really help other people find their health doppelganger, right? So it allows people to, find people with their age, their gender, with their history, their symptoms, and really see what's worked for them, right? So imagine no longer going onto the internet and searching your symptoms and you coming to the conclusion that you're on the verge of death. We don't need to do that anymore, right? If there are people out there who are similar to us who might have gone through the same thing already. So this is really, really revolutionary stuff, and this is just in healthcare. Like I said, we're going to discuss some other industries now. So let's move on to what else is being done with data in other sectors. So gambling's an interesting one, and I would really say that this is maybe the flip side of how data is being used. Data is used for good, it can be used for bad, it can be used dangerously. And when I first read about this, I was really surprised that this was the way a lot of gambling and kind of casinos ran their business. But it does make sense now, just reading through it, that this is how they make money. But let me get into it. So big casinos, and I'll put a picture of Vegas there just because it's home of so many casinos. Big casinos use something similar to the doppelganger search to really better understand their customers, basically try to maximize their profits, and get as much as they can from an individual. They believe that each individual has a pain point, which is a certain limit that they won't go past. Money that can be lost basically without them giving up and never coming back, or leaving the casino for a long period of time and not coming back. So, for instance, it could be £2,000 for someone, it could be £5,000 for someone else, where if they lose £5,000, they're basically gone. So their main aim is to really understand and try and find out what this pain point is, because they don't want to exceed it or breach it, but they really want to kind of get an individual as close to that pain point as possible, so that actually they don't extend it or exceed it, they actually come back and want to do more, right? Because that's how they make money. So yeah, the best outcome for them is to really not cross that boundary, and also make the most amount of profits that they can, and obviously ensure that customers come back for more. So you might be thinking, how exactly do they do that, or how can they do that, right? So they actually find a way to stop individuals, to stop players when they get to a certain amount. So they can offer them kind of free meals, for example, to get them to step away, right? And you'd be thinking, but how do they know when they get to this limit? How do they know when they've got to a pain point? Well, everybody's pain point is different. Like I said, for some people it might be £2,000 to £2,000. Yeah, like I said, £2,000 or $2,000 or whatever it is. It could be £50,000 or dollars, right? So it can vary. and people aren't just going to tell you, I'm not coming into to the casino to spend a particular amount. Other than that point, they might not know what their limit is. So this is where data again comes in. And what the casinos do is learn everything they can really about the customers that they have, their age, where they live, their gender, their gambling behavior, which is really including kind of the history of winnings and losing and comings and goings, and they use this information to estimate pain points of future customers. So they're gathering all this information, like I said, like the doppelganger search, comparing really individuals that fit a particular bracket to make a prediction. So in terms of real life examples of this, there's actually a casino called Harrah's that does exactly this. They use doppelganger search, they analyze the data of their customers, compare it to new customers coming along, and they actually do this through a big data warehouse firm called Terabyte that helps them analyze that data for them. So when they see someone nearing their pain point, they go up and they say, oh, looks like you're having a rough day, have a meal on us for free right now, to step away, and try and get them to quit, basically. And this all originates from data, being able to analyze the data and behaviors of people, to really extract as much as they can out of customers, which is what they try to use long term for their overall profit. So I don't know if that's surprising to you, but it was really surprising to me, but it's good to be informed. So that's part of the gambling industry. Data is key to it. Okay, so looking at consumers, us, everyday people, right? I think a bit of doom and gloom in the last example, but consumers do still have power. I hope you like the little image there. Power, if you got that. But yes, anyway, so data can still be in favor of us as consumers, and that's through leaving things like reviews for businesses, or service that you've received. The data actually shown that if a business or a service received, one fewer star on something like Yelp, a restaurant or businesses, revenue could actually drop by 5 to 9%. And that's crazy, right? The impact that a few words from ourselves can actually have on business, people making money, right? And it really is powerful, because not only are you informing others of that service and maybe what they should avoid, but like I said, you're actually impacting money through the data that you're sharing and the experiences that you're sharing. So it's not all doom and gloom. We do have power. So I'm now coming to the conclusion really at this point. I've shared a couple of different examples, and hopefully in answer to my first question, which was why should people care about data? Data is an incredibly powerful tool, and hopefully you've seen that through some of the examples that I've shared today. Data is far from just numbers on a page. Like I said at the beginning, it's good. There is some bad, there is some ugly. But it's a very, very powerful tool, especially when you know what exactly they're looking for. Because the insights that you can extract from data is, incredible. It's really incredible. So don't limit yourself to the traditional view of data. There is data all around us, literally oozing from everywhere we go. As I said at the beginning, leaving a trail behind us. Data is there, it exists, and it can actually really help us save lives, change lives, and clearly organizations are using it to make money as well. So data is also gold. And as the book, like I said, Everybody Lies is the book that I read to kind of inspire this session today. As the author says, data can actually help you see through people's lives as well. So there are so many benefits to data, and hopefully you understand a bit more about why it's important and why you should care about it. So that's actually it for me. I'm rounding up now. I want to thank you for listening. You can catch me on Twitter or my Instagram or my site that's coming along. Yeah, really thank you for being here today and listening. Take care, everyone.